Hey everybody, welcome back. It's author MD New, and I am back again with more tips and tricks for authors. So, in my last video, I talked about creating races, different types of races and stuff like that for characters that inhabit your world. So, I got asked a couple of follow-up questions, which I'm going to address in another in this video and then in another video. One of the big questions I got asked about was language. And what do I mean by that? Well, so when you create these races, right, you don't have to create a whole brand new language. You just have to create things that make them a little bit different. So you can, no one's asking an author to become a linguist, right? So you don't have to, like I said, sit down and create this whole alphabet and this language and, pronouns and nouns and verbs and all these things. You don't need to do that. It can be really, really simple. So, it's one of those things that it's kind of what to create and really what not to bother with. So first thing that you want to do is when you're talking about an alien race or a different species like elves or something like that, or dwarves or gnomes or whatnot, you can simply replace common words. Coffee, wine, soda. Well, those are all things very specific towards us. Now, these other races, these other beings might have a drink similar to that. So then, give it a different name. Call it something different. In my sci-fi series, A New World, one of the drinks that they have, which is very similar to coffee in that everybody drinks it, it's a lot of what they drink, it's called Tuma. I didn't have to create this whole big thing about it. It's just I changed coffee for the word Tuma. I gave it a little bit of a different flavor, so it's a spicy sweet drink that's actually served cold, not hot. So it's, just something like that. It was really easy, really simple, because I just didn't want to use coffee, right? I didn't want to sit there and have them drinking, a coffee drink or whatever. So it was like, so I created Tuma. I also gave them another drink. Instead of wine, they have what they call Exine, which is served hot. It is a hot drink. So it's something just a little bit different, a little bit alien, a little bit foreign. It's something that you can have fun with it. Again, this should be fun, right? You're creating characters, you're creating a world. So when you're creating a language, have fun with it. Another thing that is a lot of fun that people do a lot of in various books is they create new swear words, right? We see this all the time in any fantasy books, sci-fi series, whatever. They use different words for swear words, which is a lot of fun for people, and sometimes they get into our vernacular as well, right? So that's just something to have fun with. The other thing that you can do as far as creating a language or making them different is call their food something different, right? Don't have your character sitting there eating a sandwich, right? Call it something different, make up a name for it. You don't have to go into huge amounts of detail. I tend to like to use food in my books because I think that food is a really good world building tool. So I do a lot of food. So for me, in my New World series, I did create a whole bunch of food that the aliens eat and drink and stuff like that. And I just had a blast doing that. It was a lot of fun. So it's something that you can do as well. The other thing to think about is names of cities and locations, right? So especially if it's an alien race or whatever on a different planet, you can give them, you can go crazy with the names of their cities or whatnot. The thing to keep in mind is if you're going to take your book and turn it into an audiobook, make these words easy to pronounce. That it can be a killer. I was working with one of my narrators on my A New World series, and we actually had to sit down and go through how to pronounce all these fun and creative words that I threw at him. Yeah, so keep that in mind when you're creating these words. Don't go crazy and don't make them impossible to pronounce. Because if you can't pronounce them, then other people can't pronounce them. The other thing to think about is give your race or your beings or whatever a name. Call them something. Again, in my A New World series, they are the Nentri, right? Very easy, something that they can be referred to. But within the Nentri, there are different clans of these aliens as well. So, keep that in mind. They all have their different names, and I won't go into them now, but it's just something to think about. Have fun with it. It helps build out your worlds, and what you'll find is you're building out this language, right? All of a sudden, you've got names for different drinks and foods and swear words and cities and the races and everything like that. It just kind of starts to take on this world of its own. And the big thing too is when you're doing this is kind of keep a list so you know what's going on. Again, what I did and what I actually find really helpful is I created an appendix, a glossary of terms for all these, so it's something that people could refer to in the book. The other thing to think about when you're creating these things is character names. Don't name your aliens Mark, Rick, or Steve or whatever. Come up with something a little bit different, a little more exciting. And that goes for not only aliens, but for, other species here on Earth. If you're doing elves or whatnot, give them different names. Think, Tolkien and even George R. R. Martinson, they're really good at kind of creating these names and places. It's still approachable and easy for us to read, but it's completely something different, which is really important because it creates this story, right? It creates this world that all these characters inhabit and live in. The last thing is again, think of the flora and fauna. I know I said this a little bit before, but if you mention plants and animals and stuff like that, just give them a different name. It's really easy. Sit down and go, okay, well, instead of them riding a horse, they're riding a Leah, right? I don't know. It's just a really stupid word, but hey, whatever, right? So it's, when you describe it, you're describing something that's very similar to a horse, but it's just called something different because they're a different species. They have different words for things that may not always translate to English. The last tip that I have for you on this, and it's really important, is don't go crazy with it. Remember, people have got to read this and they've got to relate. So if you spend the first 2 paragraphs of your book explaining 5 different terms that people are going to be totally confused about, it may not be the best way to start things. So bring it in gradually, reinforce it throughout, maybe throw one word or a name or something like that. So it already sets in the reader's mind that, okay, this is not a story taking place here on Earth. This is something different. This is a whole different place. So that way, then when you do throw some new terms at them throughout the story, they're kind of mentally prepared and you're not bombarding them all at once. I made a huge mistake in doing that in the very first book of A New World, and my editor and I, we worked through that and we changed a whole bunch of things and we moved chapters around. So the first chapter actually wasn't the first chapter, but we did those changes because it's so important to not bombard your reader with all these new phrases and words that you had a great time creating. So those are my tips and tricks for creating a language. I hope it's helpful. I hope you find this information useful. If you have questions or want to reach out to me, please feel free to do so. You can always get a hold of me in the comments below, or you can send me an email as well, and I'm pretty responsive to those if I have, when I have time. So yeah, I hope that this was helpful, and looking forward to talking to you again the next time. So otherwise, have a great time, and we will see you again real soon. Take care, everybody. Bye.